Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to everyone here attending today's Executive Roundtable, the 10X Customer, How Personalized Experiences Drive Unstoppable Subscription Retention. My name is Emily Lagasse. I'm the VP of Marketing at Bluestream, and I'll be the moderator for this insightful discussion today. We are living in a dynamic economic landscape right now, and for subscription businesses, retaining the customers you've worked so hard to acquire is more critical than ever. We've gathered a panel of leading experts to delve into actionable strategies and best practices for not just retaining subscribers, but turning them into your best and most loyal customers. We have an incredible lineup of panelists today. I'm pleased to introduce Matt Holman, widely known as the Subscription Doctor. Matt brings a wealth of experience in diagnosing and treating the challenges subscription businesses face, and he'll be sharing his perspective on how to best nurture your subscribers from day one. Next, we're thrilled to have Chris George, the founder of SubSummit. Chris has a finger on the pulse of the entire subscription industry and will be sharing his insights on the key shifts driving successful retention today. We also have the dynamic duo behind Drink Wholesome, founders Jack and Tessa Schrupp. They've built a thriving CPG subscription brand, and they'll be sharing their firsthand experiences and valuable lessons learned in fostering strong customer loyalty. And last but not least, we have my colleague, Tyler Craigs, the CRO of Bluestream. Tyler will be kicking off our discussion today with a brief introduction to Bluestream and setting the stage for our conversation on product experiences and retention. Over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll be exploring the crucial role of personalized experiences, sharing practical advice, real-world examples, and actionable takeaways that you can implement in your own business. If you have questions for our panel, I encourage you to share them in the Q&A box on your screen. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Tyler to begin our discussion.
Excellent. Thank you, Emily, and thank you to Tessa, Jack, Matt, and Chris. Great to see you guys. Looking forward to the discussion today. So I'm going to go through a few slides here. I don't want to bore everybody to death with 45 minutes with slides, so we're not going to do that. We'll be 7 or 8 minutes just to kind of set the table. So kind of go quickly through these so we can get to what we're, I think, really all here for today, which is the meat of the discussion with the full panel. But I want to start with a stark reality. Most subscription businesses are facing a retention crisis, and typically half of new customers will churn within the first 90 days. And alarmingly, only about a quarter are retained beyond 6 months. So considering the significant investment in acquiring these customers, that level of losses is unsustainable, especially in the uncertain economic climate we find ourselves in. But there is good news. This doesn't have to be your story. True personalization, going beyond basic data points to understand individual customer needs, offers a really powerful solution to this problem. And we and McKinsey see a winning connected customer as generating 10 times their initial purchase value and lifetime value, LTV. So if that theoretical $50 initial purchase isn't yielding $500 in LTV, your acquisition costs are likely outweighing the returns. So it's time to prioritize retention. And at Bluestream, we start from the belief that every customer should be your best customer. So we empower companies to cultivate customer delight through exceptional product experiences that directly lead to significantly higher repeat purchases, revenue, and overall LTV. So for CPG brands that are aiming for this enduring customer relationship, Bluestream's platform stands alone as the AI-powered platform of choice that delivers continuous proactive guidance throughout the entire ownership journey, from unboxing all the way to renewals via an intelligent omni-channel communication. And we'll get into a little bit more of that. But unlike tools that are focused solely on acquisition or reactive support, Bluestream's platform fundamentally increases retention, revenue, and that long-term loyalty by ensuring a positive and supported customer experience from that very first interaction. And so now for a moment or two, let's dive a bit deeper into the challenges we see in the current landscape and how we can turn this retention crisis into an opportunity for everybody. And I know all of the panelists would agree, and probably everybody listening in would agree, that there is a huge opportunity and benefit in staying connected with your customer post-purchase. But having an excellent product isn't good enough. A successful product needs a successful customer. And so you see a chart here, and what this is saying is that a typical consumer purchase follows a pretty predictable pattern. The perception and satisfaction are highest right at that point of purchase. And as a product is unboxed and used, that drops. Either potential is lost because the right guidance wasn't provided at the right time. The product gets put in the back of the closet collecting dust and forgotten about. Maybe they loved it the very first time, but never came back for whatever reason. Or typically, in the best case, that experience was built back up a bit with a really heavy and expensive customer support lift. And so these are the reasons why fewer than 1/3 of consumers are making a second purchase with a company. And in subscription modeled businesses, 50% are gone within those first 3 months. So establishing this meaningful product connection with the consumer is what builds this more consistent, more repeatable, more profitable business. And a question that we like to ask all of our prospective clients and clients at Bluestream is, do you know how your customers are using your products right now? How did they use them this morning? How did they use them last week? How have they used your products in the 8 minutes that we've all been here today? And we're largely met with, no, we have no idea. Or in the best case scenario, yeah, we find out a little bit when they probably leave a negative review and we're responding to that. And that kind of sucks. We could be better than that, right? And with digital or cloud-based companies, that's really easy to do. They have access to all of this data in real time about how customers are using the product. They're learning in real time and can iterate and can assist and can delight their customers with a lot more agility, retain them longer, increase their happiness. If you think about Google Analytics, for example, all of you are familiar with that. You know what pages of your site were visited, how long they were visited for, the page they went to after that, the page they were on prior to that, whether they came from desktop, whether they came from mobile. So there's no shortage of data for digital or cloud-based companies on your customers or potential customers and how they're engaging with you. Physical goods don't have that luxury. Because of Google Analytics, you probably know everything prior to that point of purchase, that entire buyer's journey. But once that package, once that product hits the doorstep, the connection's lost and largely not regained until it's too late. Think of that poor review and having to respond to that example. But it hasn't been anybody's fault. There hasn't been a solution that considers this full product ownership lifecycle of the physical goods space, those critical early days, early minutes of unboxing, and then onward toward usage and care and maintenance. Different products have different needs for all those different steps of the journey. And there are plenty of tools, point solutions really, that focus a tremendous amount of effort and investment on new customer acquisition, and then equal effort on the far right side of that on supporting them when things go wrong. Yet this is the most crucial time, that doorstep to delight period, as I like to think about it, that box sitting on the porch, that is the key to building lasting relationships and for getting a return on that upfront acquisition investment. And it's also the point in the customer relationship where the consumer really wants the most connection and the most personalization. McKinsey says that 71% of consumers expect personalization after purchase, and 76% are upset when they don't get it. So building that loyalty, building that engagement between brands and their customers right at or right after that initial purchase, that phase on that past chart when consumers lose touch, is crucial. And so Bluestream's product experience platform leverages both product data and customer data to deliver really hyper-personalized engagement at scale. And think of these as AI-powered dialogues. Think of them as a digital assistant that are engaging your customers through your channel of choice, that are guiding them through unboxing, usage, care, maintenance, and gathering a lot of really valuable business insights along the way. So that's really what we've done. We've digitized this product ownership lifecycle that are giving your products a voice from the moment of purchase and all the way onward towards ultimately creating a brand champion, which is what we all want. So delivering 10x that initial purchase in LTV. And so when we help companies with our method to delight their customers with these exceptional product experiences, that's exactly what happens, that 10x, because of higher repeat purchases, because of higher retention, overall increasing that LTV. So that was a lot of words in a really scientific way of looking at this. When you look at it applied in real life, I use an example of our friends at Drink Wholesome here. So you think about what everything I've said so far, how it kind of manifests itself out in the wild. What does that dialogue look like between a brand and its consumer? Here we have an example of that. So what you see instantly is that it's not, here's a 10% off coupon, thanks for your purchase, or because you bought this, you should buy this. It's helping them with their very first purchase. It's welcoming them to Drink Wholesome. We're thrilled that you chose our protein powder that's made with real food ingredients. And we're going to ask a question. Are you ready to start your journey to better nutrition right now? And based on a responsive yes, we're going to say, great. We're going to want to know a little bit more information here too. So how would you, Mrs. Consumer, describe your level of experience with supplements in general? Beginner, intermediate, or pro. So you can see in just a first couple of touch points here, we know that this consumer is ready to get started. We also know their experience level. We know they're a beginner in general. So we reply to that with tailored information that's going to be very basic, like for the smoothest shake, you're going to want to add liquid first and then your powder. A tip that a blender bottle works best, but regular shaker works too. And we're going to ask another question. What do you actually prefer using? And perhaps even link them at that point to a 30-second tutorial video on creating their first shake. So this dialogue would have been very different if she wasn't ready to start yet and if she was advanced. But through just a couple of questions through this automated dialogue, we learn she's ready, she's a beginner, and we know what kinds of tools she's using. So we're able to say that's a great choice. Give her some blending options, some mix-in options like a frozen banana and a splash of almond milk, and she's going to have a much better first experience with Drink Wholesome's products than she would have otherwise. So hopefully that kind of real world example helps bring it in a little bit to show what we're describing as a more product centric engagement with the consumer post purchase. And wrapping it up here, when you bring this type of connection to the world of physical goods, really great things start to happen. We see this come through in significant increases in the metrics we talked about already: retention, revenue, and ultimately LTV, because you know who's using your products, you know when they're using them, you know when they're not using them, knowing exactly what they think in real time, proactively triaging when something is going wrong and a consumer has a question. So it's these types of really valuable business insights that are driving straight to that bottom line value: 30% higher retention, 30% higher revenue, and an overall doubling of consumer LTV is what our clients see. So hopefully the past 8 minutes have helped visualize how we at Bluestream and our clients see what the challenge has been with a huge gap there in the middle with a proper product ownership connection for physical goods and what the benefits are of deploying such a solution. I'll kick it back to you, Emily.
Thank you. That was really great information and background to help set up our discussion today. And our first question will be for Matt. So Matt, before we get into your subscription question, I think I would really like to just have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, your interest in the subscription industry, and how brands can work with you and how people can learn more.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been in the subscription space for quite a few years now, first on the software side as a co-founder. And by working with kind of like our own customers, realized that's where I really loved and had a great passion for helping people solve, because subscriptions just kind of feel like a really weird problem that people come at a little bit differently or have difficulty kind of unlocking. So Subscription Prescription was founded a few years ago, newsletter, podcast, and consultancy. We work with a lot of brands, helping them figure out how to acquire better subscribers, if not more subscribers, as well as working through how to build the right types of experiences after the fact that drive better retention. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I know lately on the podcast, you've been highlighting the importance of understanding subscriber needs, especially in those early stages. And I'm wondering if you could share with us one or two key areas where you see CPG brands stumbling in those early interactions, and how do these seemingly small errors add up over time? What do you see happening?
Yeah, I'll use two very quick examples of this. So I bought a sleep supplement a couple months ago. Um, Basically like this little hot cocoa thing that you could make and take before bed to help you go to sleep. And as I opened it, there was a little bottle. There was an instruction, you could use one scoop or two, but there was nothing on timing. So do I take this like 5 minutes before bed, an hour, 2 hours? So I literally DM'd the founder of the company because I'd found them on Twitter and said, "Hey, when do I take this?" He's like, "Oh, an hour before bed." And I just replied, You might want to have that in the unboxing, right?" So that's number one. The second one is I also had ordered an electric shaver. And the electric shaver is a device. You don't subscribe to the device, but you subscribe to replacement heads so that so you can still get a clean shave for your head. And very similarly, there was no instructions on how often those razors need to be replaced on average based on how much you use them. And so what I see as one of the biggest kind of mistakes is that most brands assume that people are going to figure out how their product works instead of or they're worrying about upselling, right? Like, so this electric shaver one was all about how great their product is and follow them on social. And if you want a special offer on another product, here you go. And so, as opposed to, let me juxtapose that with, I tried this matcha tea earlier last year, and you open it up, and it was this step-by-step experience of building the perfect first cup of matcha. And I'd never tried matcha before, and so it felt very kind of like very ceremonial. It felt very like kind of like really, really important. And so, what I think really the opportunity is brands need to be focusing on creating first experiences that are impactful, that allow people to have success with the product, that overcome common issues or questions, but also just demonstrate that the product is helping them, or why it's different. I can go on and on with tons of examples of brands that are doing this well or that are struggling with this, but that's where I think it is you get somebody to purchase, you want to make sure that they have a really great positive first experience, because if they don't, you can't, like say as Tyler was talking about all the different touch points, none of those touch points are going to matter because they didn't like your product, right? Like, they're done, they're unsubscribing, and they're out.
Absolutely. I think focusing on those first moments, we at Bluestream certainly agree with you that that's a critical moment in helping your customer succeed with your product. And I'd love to hear from our other panelists as well, if you have something to weigh in with about the biggest hurdles that you see subscription brands facing in turning those initial subscribers into loyal repeat customers, even super buyers. So what would be your top advice for tackling these challenges that Matt just shared?
I think Matt hit the nail on the head. Like, that first experience is so important. It comes down to so many parts of it too, right? Like the shipping time, right? So like Amazon's like built this like sort of presence that like you need to get things within 2 days, and now you need to get them within a day, and Amazon's now shipping things to you within hours. I think some brands make a mistake where you sign up for them and you're getting it in 5 to 7 days later. Like based on your chart, Tyler, like the peak interest is right at purchase, and they're excited to get it. And I think that the renewals sometimes can play a different part because they're knowing the product's going to come, unless it's a supplement where they need to have a certain supply. I always encourage brands to spend more on that shipping on the first one, especially. So if you had to pay for expedited shipping, do that, because it gave a better experience for the consumer. And consumers also just inherently want things quickly now, right? Amazon set that precedence of like, it's got to show up quickly. So I think that's really important. And to your point, Matt, like, you have to put yourself in the consumer's shoes. Like, get the product. Like, what would you ask? And founders and marketers and the team will always assume the consumer is going to know what they know, but they're not. It also comes down to like marketing too, right? Like, the marketer will think that this ad will perform better or this email will perform better. Like, the data is going to tell you, right?
Yeah.
And so this now comes to like surveying the customers and asking them like, well, how was your first experience? And Matt would have replied like, I didn't know when else was to take this, right? And like, now that's going to tell you for the future that you need to make these adjustments. So it's like, not everybody's going to be like Matt and ask. Some people are going to do due diligence themselves and Google it, or they're going to search online and look for somebody else that asked the question, or another person on social media that said, hey, you're supposed to take it an hour later. Right now it's solved. However, if you survey them, they might give you those responses. And the surveys become so important because that allows you to evolve the product. It's never what we want, it's what the consumers want. I think that's the biggest hurdle that the brand needs to think about. It's, what does the consumer want? Like, it doesn't matter if you think it's the best product. If the consumers don't think it's the best product, it's worthless.
Right.
I think what you're highlighting there too, Chris, is this real opportunity for brands to provide that information proactively, even with content on their own site. So keep them engaged and build that trust and that loyalty from that first experience, rather than sending them into Google or Reddit or wherever they may end up, and they may not even be getting the right information there, right? So like owning that information, sharing it when it at the right time is critical.
And I would just add one thing is early on in the process of after you place your first subscription order, we want our customers to feel really in control of their experience with our product and knowing when the next delivery is coming and how they can make changes to their subscription, adding, adjusting. Maybe they really like the product and now they want to double the supply. So that also comes through the welcome flow of we're sending them information about account creation and hoping it's really clear and ensuring it's really clear to them how they can control their subscription moving forward so that they also don't have to ask us that after the fact.
I would say to Tessa's point, to parrot some of the others, it's really what I'm hearing is the need to understand what the customer is actually thinking in those first key moments. And so many companies we talk to, the status quo is sending an email 2 or 3 weeks after a purchase asking for a review. But like, did they get the product? Did they even start using the product? Do they like the product? There's so many opportunities for dialogue in those first key moments. And if we kind of start with the end in mind, we know if a subscription brand gets a subscriber to month 6, like they're sticky. They're there. So much opportunity, and not even months 1 through 5, but like days 1 through 5 to get started, knowing what they're saying.
Tyler, I think that's the Bluestream product becomes so great for this because not everybody has the same questions. Like we all might have different questions. Like I might have known that the product that Matt bought is an hour before, but I might have had another question. Like, can I drink water after? Am I allowed to eat? Right? Like there's so many other questions. And I think with your Bluestream product, you're allowing for this to get answered without me having to go down this crazy rabbit hole or call my friend that referred it and be like, hey, when am I supposed to take this? And they don't answer the phone. And I'm like, man, should I take this before I go to bed? Should I not take this before I go to bed? Right. And like, I think that all of that helps tremendously in giving the customer the answers that they're looking for, which then enhances the experience, which then builds confidence in the product.
When we first
100%.
engage with customers, we use Bluestream to help improve that first product experience. We make a protein powder, and so we ask them which ingredients they have at home. Are they going to mix it with milk or water? Which appliances do they have access to? Do they have a blender, a shaker bottle, a handheld electric mixer? And then based upon their responses, we're going to tailor our recommendations to increase the likelihood that they have a positive first experience, because many of our customers are first-time protein powder users. Making a protein shake with protein powder is by no means rocket science, but if you've never done it before, a little bit of guidance can go a long way.
Like liquid before the powder.
Exactly.
I know. I was reading when I saw that text. I was like, "Huh, I've been making my protein shakes the wrong way." If I could ask, like Jack and Tessa, because we've chatted about this too. Like, what are some of the other common like questions or problems or things you want to explain? Because I'm really curious too with your product. It's like, how quickly do people notice that it's different? How quickly do they feel different? Like kind of like, because that's where I think some of the other big opportunity is for subscription brands is like, how do you set the stage for what it's going to feel like or look like, 3 days, 7 days, 20 days later?
Well, we could definitely do a better job about checking in with customers shortly after they start using the product regarding how it makes them feel, because we make protein powder for sensitive stomachs. We work with folks who have chronic digestive issues, and their digestion is important to us. And so we should, I actually wrote that down while listening to you all. We should check in with them. We do get a lot of questions about the product because it is fundamentally different than most protein powders. For one thing, it doesn't contain any emulsifiers. Unlike most protein powders, which contain emulsifiers that help the powder dissolve in water, our protein powder is emulsifier free, and so it's a little bit harder to mix. And we really want to educate customers about the fact that it is hard to mix, and then teach them how to mix it well. So that's really important to us. We also get questions about when to use protein powder, how often to use protein powder. And unfortunately, the answer is really going to depend on the individual customer. So in the event that they do have personalized questions, we do our best to answer them through a robust human customer support system that is supported by a registered dietitian that we work with in-house.
And we also get questions about the functionality of our different products because we have 3 different types of protein powder: egg white, collagen, and almond, and they function differently depending on the recipes you're using. For example, we wouldn't recommend that you put our egg white protein powder into coffee or a hot beverage because egg whites cook at high heat. But that would be a good moment to use your collagen protein powder. And we include recipes in our Blue Stream journeys, often with a recommendation of protein powder just for that specific application.
That makes a lot of sense. Hearing you both talk about your products and the nuances with them makes me understand and appreciate so much of your customer's journey. And so I'm very glad you're on Blue Stream and using that to educate your consumers.
Us too.
Well, I'd like to move on to our question for Chris. And before we get to your question, Chris, I'd love you to just introduce yourself. I'm sure most people here know about Sub Summit, but if you could just let everybody know how they can get involved, and we'll be sure to share a link for brands who would like to attend. But we'd love to hear more from you about that.
One, thank you guys for having me. And you guys are big supporters of Sub Summit, so grateful for that. But I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sub Summit, the largest event in the world for all direct-to-consumer subscription membership and loyalty brands. So our the brands in attendance are everybody from Panera Bread to Spotify, YouTube to FabFitFun, Ipsy, MyAvi. If you have some sort of subscription membership or loyalty, or you want to learn how to build one, you come out to Sub Summit. And our event's around the corner. It's just 3 weeks away. Blue Stream is a huge supporter. Matt's been coming for, I don't know, ever. Love to have you guys join. So if you're a brand and you'd like to come, we have a program called Hosted Buyer. That expires on the 13th, so you'd have to apply within the next few days. But you can come to our event for free and get travel reimbursement. And Tessa and Jack, you guys are both more than welcome to come. But yeah, that's we've built the largest event in the world for all direct-to-consumer subscription, loyalty, and membership brands.
Great. Our team is looking forward to joining you at the end of the month.
Excited.
Me too.
So I know you see thousands of subscription companies interact with a lot of them are really in the market. What single most significant change are top performing CPG subscription businesses making in their customer retention strategies right now?
I think this is something I strongly believe in. I also see a lot of brands doing this, but they're using tools that are giving them a predictive analysis on when a consumer might churn. And this becomes very important for multiple reasons. So, Tyler, you alluded to that 50% of subscribers are gone within the first 6 months. There's a segment of them, though, that are staying on for a long time. And using these data analysis tools is going to help you identify that segment, right? So if you look at a brand like HelloFresh, they lose like 80% of their customers the first 2 months. It makes sense. You're talking about a lifestyle change, like this ingredients are getting delivered, you're cooking it, whether it's with a family or you're a single individual living in New York and like having these ingredients delivered to your door daily or a package for you to have meals throughout the week. It's a lifestyle change. So what ends up happening is like there's a large percentage of them that are like, they stock up on all these ingredients. They never end up cooking like me. Like I'm the worst customer for that. I'm never cooking anything, right? But then there's this percentage, this 15 to 20% that become like lifelong customers because it becomes part of their lifestyle. They cook 3 meals a week through HelloFresh. They do it as a family. The other parts of the week are they're going out to dinner or they're cooking a different meal. But now it's part of their lifestyle. They expect that package to get delivered, right? And those, what becomes important is identifying who are those customers so we can target more of them. On the other side of it is if you've got knowledge that this group of individuals is likely to cancel on month 9, Well, in month 8, you should offer them an annual subscription at a discounted rate because you've just increased LTV by 12 months. Even if you gave them 2 months free, say like, hey, you've been a customer for the last 7 months, join our annual subscription. We'll give you 2 months free. You just increased it by 10 months. And then, or it's when you do a check-in, like our customers are typically canceling around month 9. Like, let's check in on month 8 and see what's happening. Do they not like the product? Is it becoming stale? Do they have too many units? That information becomes so prevalent because it allows you to keep the consumer for a longer period of time. So I'm seeing some of the biggest brands are using tools to identify when the consumers are likely to churn and then doing something the month prior, whether that's include an extra gift, like reach out to them, offer an annual subscription, and that's increasing LTV tremendously.
Yeah. We have been doing a lot of research on this on our end. Tyler, I don't know if you want, it looked like you were about to jump in. Feel free to share.
I was just going to say, I think Chris, you said a couple of really great things there, but thinking about that subset, that 15 to 20% of consumers, they've made that lifestyle change. And when I said early on, we believe every customer should be your best customer. Like, that's exactly it. How do you make the other 80% those 20%? And it's predictive analytics, and it's how are they using the product? How do you get somebody like, I'm a terrible example of this, or maybe a really good example. In my experience, the Blue Apron and HelloFresh, all of them, I get the coupon and I do it, and then I get the promotion, and then the other company sends me one and I do that. None of them have ever done a good job of making me sticky. And I think I'm kind of the average consumer when it comes to that. But if there was a better first experience, that's how you make that 20% into 30 and 40 and 50%.
Yeah. And it goes along. A big part of it is what's that customer experience and journey look like. Like, I always make this example. I fly Delta, and I only fly Delta, right? I flew Spirit one time, and like, if anybody's flown Spirit and you continue to fly Spirit, I'd question you. But like, really, it's just because it's like you're flying Spirit because of the price, and that's the only reason you're ever flying Spirit. But with Delta, because of the experience they provide, because of the easy use of the app, because how easy it is to change your flights, because how easy it is if you call me of an issue and you call customer service, and like, no matter what, they're going to support the change that you need, and they're going to solve your problem. And the experience you get from walking onto the plane, and the way they greet you when you walk up to the gate, I will never book a flight anywhere else. Like, if Delta was smart, they could like increase my rates by 20%. I would never know. I would just book. I literally go on the app, and I want to fly somewhere on a certain day. I pick the day, and whatever the price is, I'm paying for it. Right. And so they've got this lifelong customer. And I know they're not a subscription, but they're a loyalty. I mean, it all comes down to the experience you're providing the consumer that gets them to stay sticky. Right. And so that experience early on has a huge effect on the future LTV. And to your point, Tyler, it's if you get that 80% of not lifelong customers, if you get the 15 to 20 up to 25, it's a huge impact on the business. It's like
Game changing.
tremendous.
Yeah.
You don't got to get it to 100. Like, if you got it to 30 or 40, it's a huge impact on the business.
Yeah, I would chime in.
Definitely. I was going to ask you how you're flying down to Dallas, but now we know the answer.
Yeah,
So I want to
we
ask you
know
that
how
question.
Yes, flying Delta.
Me too. I'm a huge Delta. I would say the trend we're seeing, like kind of like, I guess maybe doubling down on some of what you guys are saying, is as you go up market and you get into the like how enterprise brands are viewing subscriptions and working with subscriptions, is that it's less about the AOV of individual orders, and it's more about the LTV and the length of time that somebody's on a subscription. And what I mean by that is, when you're smaller and you're really struggling to make sure you're offsetting the cost that you have to acquire a customer, you're pushing for a lot of first order profitability and higher first order average order value. The problem is that you're often overselling somebody something, right? Like, you might sell them a bag of protein that they really only are going through every 6 to 8 weeks, but it's on a monthly subscription. And so a lot of brands in the mid-market and smaller are running into issues where you're struggling to keep people because there's a misalignment in how much they need and how often they need it. So even smaller brands are like, that's what the beauty of like Shopify and a lot of the subscription technology of how it's making this kind of easier is looking at how you can dial people in on the amount that they want and getting them, even if that's less frequent, right? So as a very quick example, I've talked about shaving my head already. I'll talk about it again. I've been a Dollar Shave Club subscriber for like 7, 8 years now, but I get those replacement razors like every 3 months, not every month, right? So it's trying to find the right cadence for people and getting that on there, because LTV over time is going to fit if they like the product and it's part of their lifestyle, as opposed to just making sure somebody's buying as much as possible every single time.
Man, have you seen how Farmer's Dog does it? They are so good at this. Anybody here subscribe to Farmer's Dog?
Mhm.
So you sign up for Farmer's Dog, and before your next renewal, they email you and say, how many bags of food do you have left?
Oh, right.
And then
Good.
it allows you to adjust versus end up canceling because you've got too much. So I'll get the email and I'll be like, I've got 12. And they're like, because they'll say, like, you should have 9. And I'll be like, well, I have 12. Like, all right, we're moving your renewal date up 6
I
days.
love it.
And it's so smart. And and I would have inherently, I can see so many customers that would have canceled at some point because they had too much, right? Because what ends up happening is, like, your dog is eating it every day, but sometimes they get picky, right? Dogs get picky and they want a different flavor. So then you give them something else. And next thing you know, you're caught. Well, Farmer's Dog got my subscription to a point where when my dog's last meal, I was getting the new package that next day. And it was so perfectly aligned. And it still asked me, they still checked in, like, are you still doing good? Like, do we have the right amount showing up to your door? Do you want to make changes? Do you want to change the flavor? And it's
Right.
why I never canceled. Where, to your point, like, having too much product is a big part for why people are canceling. And for you guys in your protein shake, like, he's right. People are taking it in different amounts, and knowing that some people might go through it in 2 months versus a month is a big difference.
And the
That
other side
actually
being they're
is the
using a
number
lot.
one reason
Yeah.
folks
Oh.
cancel.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Farmer's Dog has implemented some sort of automation that takes that customer feedback and then adjusts the renewal date or
course.
the order
Yes.
size.
Does.
Because we couldn't implement that right now. We don't have the system in place. We would have to do it manually, which would probably overwhelm us. So
Well,
I'll look into that.
I'll give you a quick tool plug. Zamo and Klaviyo actually can manage a lot of that for
Yeah, I
you.
probably can do. There's probably a Shopify plugin. I don't know if you're on Shopify or not.
They're
but
on, yeah,
probably-
they're on, but
yeah, there's for sure a Shopify plugin that does this.
Yeah.
Like, and I think Zamo's coming to Sub Summit. So if not, Matt can introduce you to him, or I can introduce you to him. But if that's your number one reason, that's the number one thing I'd focus on adjusting in the business for sure.
I would often say too, like, unpack that a little bit more. Sometimes is it too much product because they haven't been using it, right? And then sometimes it's like trying to make sure that they know how to use it, getting into all that. But yeah, I do think that is the biggest opportunity after, like, making sure people are using the product. The next biggest opportunity / problem is making sure you're getting a good alignment on quantity and frequency.
Yeah, that product usage data is key, and if Farmer's Dog does a great job, I can think of 7 or 8 things they could do a little bit better. So if anybody knows anybody at Farmer's Dog, I'd love to talk to them.
No,
But yeah, thinking of protein powder, this happened with my wife and me. You know, she buys something and then I start using it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody outside of our house knows that there's now multiple people using it. So that data changes day to day with what Power's actual consumption needs, right?
I think that's a great segue for something that I know I'm itching to share with everybody, or have Tyler share with everybody. So as you know, Drink Wholesome is one of our customers, and a lot of this conversation has been around understanding what your customers need, especially in that first moment when they get your products, but also beyond. How do you keep them sticky? How do you make sure that they're getting the right shipments at the right time, that they're using the product appropriately, that hopefully they're becoming super users and they're turning the other people in their household onto your products and buying more and more. So Tyler, if you could bring up our journey builder, we are actually going to be sharing this with the folks we're meeting with at Sub Summit. But it's just such a great visualization of the challenge that Jack and Tessa face with Drink Wholesome, as well as every CPG subscription brand.
Yeah, definitely. And we could spend 45 minutes on just this. I think once you see the first example, which is our friends here at Drink Wholesome, you'll see really the power of what we're doing, but also how easy it is. We've worked really hard for any type of brand that says, well, how do we actually get started? How do we go create all this stuff? You don't have to. So we've created this PXAI, Product Experience AI journey builder, where you can use any company and any product that they sell to get this personalized journey that's going to drive the retention and engagement and things like that. So this is a live demo, and we all know the pitfalls that can go along with a live demo, but let's do it anyway. We're going to click the button, and what this is doing right now, it's going to take 10 to 15 seconds. And what it's doing is it's behind the scenes in our shop. We've got hundreds of thousands of consumers and tens of millions of data points through our decade of experience of different products, and when people need help at different times, and when it makes sense to provide education, when it makes sense to ask questions. And what it was simultaneously doing was scouring everything in the public facing internet, from Reddit forums to Facebook pages to Drink Wholesome's website and any blog that you guys have ever written. And so what it did in those 10 seconds, looks like it's getting faster. That was faster than I expected. What it did was basically come back and say, there's really 4 pillars here that should be the dialogue that Drink Wholesome has with their customers. So we see those categorized here. There's some startup needs, like how many scoops with how many ounces of water. We talked about texture and taste already. So Jack and Tessa, you can give me an A through F grade on this later on. Maybe not live, maybe after the fact. Let's not do it live, but A- is our average so far with accuracy for products. So starting up, blending with frozen fruit, we saw that earlier. So 1 pillar. 2nd pillar being common problems, clumping, digestive discomfort, taste concerns. I know Jack and Tessa from talking with you guys that there's a need to talk about the enhancement of certain flavors based on people's certain taste bud profiles. This is saying a 3rd pillar is cross-sell, personalized purchase recommendations. So has identified what other revenue generating opportunities there are for Drink Wholesome outside of that initial purchase. Perhaps it's a stainless steel water bottle or a digital kitchen scale for more precise measurement of the product. And then usage and maintenance. So those same pillars we talked about earlier, how to store it in a cool, dry place, make sure you're rotating inventory, having clean equipment. So this in and of itself, we think is pretty powerful as a guide to the dialogues that should be occurring for Drink Wholesome and their customers. But we actually take that one step further, and it's already mapped it for us right here. So we're able to put in, again, any company, any product, and it's giving us the recommendations for what those touch points should be. So again, taking millions of data points that we have of all the products we've ever worked with, all the consumer interaction, everything available on the internet, to say that on day 1, a welcome message should be, we're excited that you've chosen our clean and simple powder. Start with 2 scoops, 8 ounces of water, and enjoy. And day 3, we should probably be asking a question. Did you know that we use real food ingredients with no additives? So kind of almost a purchase affirmation, right? Jack and Tessa, I know that's huge for you guys. Clean food. So a purchase affirmation of the benefits of the product and reminding them that it's easier to digest than most powders. And then this recommends that we get into a usage question here on day 5. That is almost an early on review, an early CSAT question. We're 5 days in. How have you been enjoying the protein? And we give 3 options. This is saying that loving it, still getting used to it, or having some issues are the 3 most common answers to this. And then we're going to provide an answer to those. So if we ask on day 5, how are you enjoying the powder? And they're still getting used to it. We've got a response for that. Thanks for sharing. Maybe try some different liquids. Almond milk can make it creamier. Water works for a lighter option. What is your preference? And so on and so forth. And again, we can spend a lot of time here, but based on those actual usage patterns and the actual way that a consumer is interacting with the product, we can take them down this very specific path to where, we're 2 weeks in now, and we want to know the goals. What are your main fitness goals with Drink Wholesome? After we've already learned up top that fitness was important. Is it building muscle? Is it general wellness? And if it's weight, we remind them that protein helps. Try having a shake between meals to help manage. Some hydration tips, things like that. So this goes out to probably around, about a month and a half here. So we're really excited about this addition to our platform, kind of almost up front. So, in years past, we have a team that's putting together this type of thing pretty manually based on all of our data. But now it is immediate and automated, that allows us to get any type of brand, any type of product engaging with their consumer in a more contextually relevant way in minutes and hours, instead of weeks and tens of thousands of dollars of consultants and things like that. So hopefully that was helpful for everybody to see. We're really excited about it, and anybody listening in, this is easy for us to do with you. So we'd be happy to talk further with anybody.
Would have saved us a little bit of time, I think. And even if we wanted to tweak some
Right.
things, we could easily go in and change phrases or prompts, but having the scaffolding there, super helpful.
Tyler, is there a way to try that out, or do you need to be in the platform signed up to be able to see that?
Today, it's kind of behind an iron and brick wall, internal only, but we are days, weeks away from it being publicly available. So you'll see, Emily probably has a tighter timeline than that, but this will be on our website. You'll see us talking about it on LinkedIn because we feel, and it seems like the reaction we're getting here, it provides an immediate visual. And Tessa, to your point, not even just the tent poles, but tweakable, right? But it's not like here's 10% of the plan. It's like 90% of the plan, and let's go make sure it's capturing the drink wholesome voice properly, right?
Yeah, I'm going to send this to one of our clients. This would be perfect for right now. So it's
It
recording.
addresses so many of the topics that we talked about today too, which is why I wanted to make sure we didn't gloss over that and we're able to share it. Well, I know we're a few minutes over. I thank everybody for staying a little bit longer. And to follow up on our great session today, I will be sending out an email tomorrow that will include links so that you can reach all the panelists and understand how to get the most out of all what they do, and a link to the recording from today. But thank you all for your time. This was a really great discussion.